Building border infrastructure, an undertaking with numerous players and many moving parts, would present significant challenges even under normal conditions. These challenges are heightened given the short time frame mandated by law for completing the border fencing. Although some of our ecological communities may recover due to the infrastructure, the footprint of the pedestrian fence with associated access roads results in other adverse impacts. These impacts include inhibiting the movement of certain wildlife species, some of which are threatened or endangered species. Within national wildlife refuges and wilderness areas, our governing statutes prohibit us from permitting the construction of certain border security infrastructure, and we informed DHS of these facts, and they ultimately chose to exercise their waiver under the Real ID Act. Now, in an ideal world, the need would not exist to construct border fences to enhance our nation's security. In reality, however, Congress has directed DHS to construct this border security infrastructure.
CBP has gone to great lengths to obtain public input throughout our planning efforts regarding the construction of fence along the southwest border. One of the best examples of our collaboration efforts can be seen in the Levee Barrier Project in Hidalgo County, Texas. Hidalgo County had plans to use local funds to raise levees along the Rio Grande River to address flood protection concerns. The county and other local officials proposed integrating a concrete retaining wall into their levee improvement project along 22 miles of the southern side of the levees. But fencing alone will not solve our problems. It is not a solution. We have always planned to supplement tactical infrastructure and mix it properly with significant technology enhancements along with a well-informed and equipped Border Patrol agent deployment.
The proposed fencing of the Texas-Mexico border has been built on a false premise that one size fits all. The reality is that Texas is the only southern state with a natural international boundary in the majestic Rio Grande River. Farmers irrigate from the river, ranchers water their herds in the river, and children are baptized in the river. It truly is a river of life. That's why any physical barrier must first take into consideration how to minimize impact on private landowners as well as the many municipalities that hug the banks of the river. The Texas Border Coalition supports smart and effective measures that will achieve true border security, such as the Vega Project in Webb County, the Eagle Pass Park Project, the Brownsville Weir and Reservoir Project, and clearing the banks of the Rio Grande north and south of vegetation such as carrizo cane and salt cedar that provide hiding places for illegal border crossers. Congress committed a strategic error in the approval of the Secure Fence Act and then compounded that error in providing the Secretary of Homeland Security with the unilateral authority to waive, in effect repeal, all federal laws to expedite the construction of the wall. Illegal border crossing arrests at the Texas-Mexico border have been falling for more than 2 years without a wall, a great tribute to the deterrence of our Border Patrol and Border Protection agents. The 9/11 terrorists entered the United States through ports of entry. Most undocumented aliens entered the United States through ports of entry. Most illegal drugs entered the United States through ports of entry. No border wall will solve those problems. We have recommended alternative measures at both ports of entry and between them that will provide for safer border region and a safer America. The administration has developed a pattern of rejecting these practical ideas and effective solutions in order to pursue misguided policy. That pattern has reached a logical, ridiculous extreme with the waivers executed by Secretary Chertoff. We've met with Secretary Chertoff to share our concerns, which he's acknowledged, but said Congress tied his hands.
In the words of the United States Supreme Court, Indian tribes predate the United States. We are older than the international boundary with Mexico, but our land is now cut in half, with O'odham sacred sites, salt pilgrimage routes, and families divided. We did not cross the 75 miles of border on our reservation. The border crossed us. The nation has repeatedly partnered with CBP and actively supported alternatives to walls, including vehicle barriers, towers, checkpoints, and other measures that reduce negative impacts on tribal lands. Despite the nation's cooperation, DHS's inflexible desire to move forward with an unreasonable time frame continues to damage the environment and cultural resources. When the nation objected to construction methods within known jaguar habitat near the reservation's eastern boundary, the CBP told us during an August 2007 meeting that the project could be postponed for 2 weeks for further review, and then proceeded as planned a few days later. When environmental assessments were conducted on ancestral O'odham lands between Naco and Douglas, numerous archaeological sites were identified in the construction zone. During an October 2007 field visit, fragments of human remains were found in heavy equipment tracks on the Christian Ranch archaeological site, a site now crossed by barriers and the border road. Imagine a bulldozer in your family graveyard. After the 2007 waiver within traditional Hitch at O'odham lands on the Barry M. Goldwater Range, a Boeing subcontractor widened 15 miles of the El Camino del Diablo, a desert crossing route listed on the National Register of Historic Places, without first performing an archaeological clearance. 2 known Hohokam archaeological sites were damaged from the blading. Today, it is as if Congress never passed NEPA or acted to protect lands within waiver zones. The Department of Interior acknowledged that its statutory obligations prevented it from approving DHS's proposed border security infrastructure. But Interior supported the DHS waiver of these very laws. I am here to urge you to restore the rule of law. We support border security, but not at the price it is now being paid.
Early last summer, we were notified of plans by the Department of Homeland Security to build a fence 18 feet high on top of the levee on the university's, on the levee north of the university's iTech campus, essentially placing all of the iTech on the Mexican side of the fence. In addition, the plans would also build a fence 18 feet high on top of the levee just south of the Scorpion baseball field and of our parking lot, essentially placing our entire golf course on the Mexican side of the fence. In October, we received a letter from U.S. Customs and Border Protection asking for a right of entry onto the university property. The request sought access to university land for the possible construction of a fence. The same document informed us that there was some question that they would be responsible for any damage done during this time of their activities. I did not sign the document that would have granted access for several reasons. It is my responsibility as president to be a good steward of the resources that have been entrusted to my care. To have signed this right of entry would have violated that public trust. It is also my responsibility as president to guard and protect the safety of our students. If I am aware of a potential danger to them, I am required to take necessary action to ensure their safety. The right of entry was refused because it was meant to support preparations for the building of a fence that would jeopardize campus security. DHS has repeatedly reported to us that they plan to build a fence on the levee for the purpose of channeling illegal entrance to a point presumably for easy apprehension. That point is the same opening in the fence that would also be used for entry and exit to the golf course, the headquarters for our golf team, and directly behind the baseball park and the recreation center. I could not sign the original right of entry because there had been a lack of opportunity for genuine public input. When the congressman mentions town meetings, it evokes a gathering of citizens engaged in civil discourse. In contrast, here, the only public hearing we were afforded was held on December 12th at the Brownsville Event Center, where we were required to submit feedback through a computer terminal or through a court reporter surrounded by armed agents. For those of us who chose to participate through verbal input, it was necessary to meet in an open field across from the event center while being photographed. I could not sign the original ROE because the university has become a key player in the promotion of the ecotourism industry and in the reclamation of important wildlife areas, inclusive of thousands of acres of the Bahia Grande area. Many have worked for decades to design a campus that is respectful of the natural and rich environment of this very special ecological zone.